comes to talk, I got quite a few things I want to cover here, and um, I will be podcasting after this stream, guys, so don't miss it. Um, you know, one thing, the title I have here is "You Can Never Trust a Dem." You know, Democrats are just the worst. They're the worst. You know, and I challenge you to tell me something good that the Democrats are representing right now. Forget about their whole history, which there's no good ever, but what is something good that the Democrats are advocating for now? There's not a single thing. And this one thing just really has been rubbing me the wrong, just pissing me off the last few days, is this lunatic governor of Massachusetts signed a law allowing abortion basically up until till birth. And this is what really ticks me off about it. Why do you think she did that? The governor of Massachusetts signed this bill into law legalizing abortion in the state of Massachusetts right up until birth. Why do you think she did that? It's so obvious why she did it to me. Why do you think she did that? I'll tell you why, but I'm curious. Just think about it. Why did she? Why, you know, in 2026, why would she do that? You know why? I'll tell you why. Because she hates Trump. It's Trump derangement syndrome. Trump overturned Roe v. Wade, so she wants to do something she thinks is anti-Trump. So she is willing to sign a bill into law like a Nazi that takes the life of unborn children just because she hates Trump. That is Trump derangement syndrome on display. It really is. That's how sick and twisted the Democrats are, right? There's no reason for that. Not that there was ever a reason for it, but you're willing to let children die because you hate Trump, and you want to have some feeling that you beat Trump in something because he overturned Roe v. Wade. Yeah, it is hatred, but it's a hatred that just consumes the person. It's twisted, psycho, sicko stuff, and it's been bugging me all week. I just, it never ceases to amaze me how low they will go. And you know, I got the biography of Steve Jobs, the one from years ago, Isaacson, and I got the audiobook and was listening to it on Spotify yesterday, and I had no idea Steve Jobs was adopted. I never really followed his life too much, but you know, I use all the products, right? I'm using an iPhone right now for the stream. And he was born in 1955. And think about if his birth mother had not given Steve Jobs up for adoption and she would have had an abortion. Think about all the things we would not have, right? Think about all the things we would not have today in our technological world if Steve Jobs' mom did not choose life. And then you think about all the children that never were born because of these psycho Democrats, like the governor of Massachusetts with her obscene law. How many other things? There's some high school kids out at 5 in the morning going to Starbucks acting like lunatics. How many things have we never had? How many innovations have never been made? What is our country missed because the Democrats have supported this culture of death with abortion? Can you imagine? I mean, just think if we didn't have Steve Jobs, who, you know, Steve Jobs, what he did with the iPhone is amazing. Yeah, there were cell phones before, but not like the iPhone. If you remember when the iPhone was released and announced, the hot thing was BlackBerry. You know, you had the keyboard cover. It was like half the device was the keyboard and everything else. And the iPhone just revolutionized cell phones, the internet, apps, the music business, the movie business, the television. It had so many innovations came out of that. None of it would have happened if Steve Jobs' birth mother did not choose life. And you got to think about how many Steve Jobs have the Democrats taken from us with their sicko ways. The Epstein file guy, you're a little behind on the news. President Trump signed a bill into law, making it federal law that the federal government had to release all the Epstein files they have, and they released them all. You're like 6 months behind the news. Yeah, Chelsea, speaking of Chelsea Handler, heard she said in this ridiculous interview, if Todd Blanche becomes Attorney General, he's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was overturned like 5 years ago, and she didn't even notice. Roe v. Wade is like a big part of Chelsea Handler's life. She didn't even know it was overturned 5 years ago and didn't affect her. This is a place where people come that know what's going on. The Fourth Horseman, 840. All right, you've been dethroned, King of Chat. Mm-hmm. Do good morals say it's right to abort the life at full term? There's never a right time to have an abortion. I mean, you know, I'm very pro-life. I'm very pro-life. How could you not be? I was talking to my Patreon live stream about this. You know, you keep hearing young people talk about the affordability crisis. The affordability crisis, right? And there's a conservative person I was watching this morning. I watched like the beginning of their stream. They were talking about the affordability crisis for millennials and Gen Z, how they can't afford anything. And this was a conservative, right, that was complaining about it. Do you know why? Why do you guys think young people, millennials and Gen Z, you know, young adults, why are they having such a difficult time affording things? Right? The affordability crisis that millennials and Gen Z are always griping about. Why do you think they can't afford things? Lazy, and you know? Some these high school kids have a diesel pickup truck. I don't know. When you're in a diesel pickup truck, does it make that noise inside? Lazy, no jobs, no. The cost of living, prices have always been going up. You know, that's not new. Prices always go up over time. Now, why do millennials and Gen Z, why can they not afford anything? Data centers, no. It's pretty simple. It's because you don't get married, right? You don't get married. And when you're in your 20s, even 30s, most people struggle throughout time, okay? That's the time when you're getting your act together. But if you're not married and you only have one income, well, that's the way it is. You know, my wife and I, when we first got married, we were flat broke, and we struggled financially for years and years and years worrying about money. You know, that's what it's like when you're young. But we had two incomes. So you have your two incomes working together so you can get through it. Right? If you're not married, which millennials fit a bunch of groups. More gays than any other generations before, so they don't get married. They got the trans, they don't get married. They got all these gender issues. You have all these other ones that aren't gay, but they're into adulting. They may even, so they don't want to grow up, So if you don't get married, you don't have two incomes when you're starting out in life. So that's why the affordability crisis is made up, okay? Prices are always going up. We have the lowest rate of inflation in 35 years right now, by the way. And you've got to have normal, traditional life, and then you can get your act together. But when you're single and you're young, it's difficult when you're married and young. Mm-hmm. I am reading the comments, absolutely. Cut the rates, that would be nice. If they cut the rates, I'd probably trade my Mini in and get a new car. Yep. Yeah, these high school kids are totally tanked. They're totally tanked. The rich are always getting richer, man. That you think that's a new thing in society? And why is that a negative thing? Rich people get richer because they understand money and are smart about money. Becoming wealthier is not evil, necessarily. It could be, depending on how you do it. Talk to Elon. Elon is the one who talked about Doge checks. Nothing worse than 4 or 5 high school guys without any girls running around all night drunk. Losers. See what I mean? Guys, you don't get girls anymore. Mm-hmm. He's honking at his friends inside Starbucks. What a lunatic. What a lunatic. They're yelling at each other, calling each other names, heard a few F words. I don't think I'd want a diesel car. They got a diesel truck. Does it sound like a semi inside too? Do you hear that noise all the time? I am a very early bird. Yes. Gas prices doing all right. I just showed the stream the other day, $3.54 a gallon here. Who's the next? My pick's Carrie Lake, right? Well, I can't help what it is by you. It's $3.54 here in Florida, in my neighborhood. It is not the highest in our country's history. That's not true. It was higher when Biden was president. Yeah, well, you're in California, Scott. Can't help that. Can't help that. Don't miss my podcast this morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. Got a lot to cover. Gas prices should be, well, in the world of should. Oh, 2008, it was really high. I mean, it was like $4.25 a gallon for like regular. I couldn't believe it. I can't remember if it was right before the election or right after, but GW was still president. I paid $4.25 for regular unleaded in 2008. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is insane. What will I do after Trump? I've been doing this for over 35 years, man, through lots of presidents. Every time there's a president leaving office, I get the same thing. What are you going to do when Bush isn't president? What are you going to do when Clinton's not president? What are you going to do when Obama's not president? What are you going to talk about when Clinton leaves office, you know? It's the same thing every 4 years, I hear. Every 4 years. I've been through, let me see how many presidents. Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, Trump, Otto Penn, and then Trump again. These guys are so messed up. It's about time for the cop to do his patrol. I guess he's running late today. Trump is effing everything up. Yeah, maybe if you're an Iranian Islamic fascist. Yeah, 4 or 5 guys without any girls. They need girlfriends. Well, one of the reasons, yeah, California, they got all their taxes and everything, but oh yeah, let the liberals expose themselves. You know, this is just the thing. You see the liberals in the chat, right? That's your average liberal, self-hating, angry. They're like these punks that are out here drunk at 5 in the morning, right? They just, you know, you see the liberals in the chat. They just hurl out obscenities, vile insults, say some of the worst things you can say. That's your average liberal. Liberals are mental patients and consumed with rage. Yes, miserable. They're miserable. That's exactly right. If you're new to my channel, guys, make sure that you subscribe. No respect for others? Absolutely. Liberalism is a disease. Yeah, yeah. A mental disorder. That's true. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Subscribe if you're new. The next stream, which will be at 6, I'll be taking live calls in the studio, so all you big mouths can call me on the air. Democrats, exactly. Yep. It's not a good idea to have fun on a wet road, driving around, acting like idiots, and parking lots and everything. It's dangerous. Very dangerous. Punks. Punks, punks, punks. Yelling at people out of the car. Stupid. You know, I watched that debate. You know, I'm no fan of Candace Owens, but she did not lose that debate. She made $300,000 to sit down with that idiot, that Jonah Hill lookalike. You know, how could you say Candace Owens lost when she was paid $300,000? She didn't have to leave her house. That was her studio. Jeez. How did she lose? They used her own studio, which I'm sure is in her house. So she didn't leave her house. Patrick Bet-David came over with this Andrew Wilson, Jonah Hill lookalike. They gave her $300,000 to sit down there for a couple of hours, and everyone's saying that she lost the debate. Sounds like she won to me. She just didn't care. And I'm no fan of Candace, and the way she's behaved is inappropriate and sick and twisted, but heck. No. Jeez. Where'd the $300,000 come from? What a joke! It was pointless. It was an infomercial. It was an infomercial to. It was 3 things. Okay, Candace Owens getting paid. She asked for $500,000, and it was reported 300. So you know, whatever, pretty good. So it was about 3 things, right? Candace Owens getting paid $300,000. I mean, my goodness. This Andrew Jonah Hill lookalike trying to elevate himself and become famous. I never heard of this guy before, and I did go and look at his YouTube channel. I'm not that impressed. And Patrick Bet-David you know, he's a self-promoter, so he promoted himself by moderating it. It was such a stupid waste of time. Other than Candace, who made $300,000. So explain to me how Candace Owens walked away with $300,000 and she lost. I'd like to hear that. Give me a break. She asked for $500, and it's being reported that they gave her $300. So I don't know if it was $300 or $500. It doesn't matter. $300, $500,000. I think we can say that Candace Owens walked away with a lot of money and won. Only $300,000. Yeah, right. That was not a debate. It was not a search for the truth. It was not an investigation. Everybody was looking to make money. Candace Owens made her 3 to 500,000. Andrew Jonah Hill got a little publicity, and Patrick Bet-David got a little publicity too. A waste of time, Teresa. Exactly. Tucker never supported Trump. No, I'm no fan of Candace Owens. You know, she's nuts. I'm in Florida, so we're in the same time zone. But you can't say that she lost. She came out way on top, and she just was basically sitting there, 7 months pregnant, not doing too much. That is probably the least she will ever do for $300,000 to $500,000. Give me a break. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to run to the studio. I will be live in 30 minutes on the podcast. Subscribe if you're new. Click the notification bell. And on the next stream, I'll be taking live calls.